Hello?
What's up? It's Todd Giffen. What's up?
Oh, hello. How are you?
Oh, I'm okay. How are you doing?
Great. I'm doing great.
You still living there in
Really
Newport?
good. Huh?
You still got that nice little place in Newport?
Yes, sir, I do.
Cool.
Yes. Yeah, my daughter's about to go into 5th grade this year. She's 10 years old now.
That's nice.
Her daddy finally came. Oh, I guess you guys did. You were around when Casey got back from Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, we heard a great deal about him, but we I don't think we met him.
Oh yeah, Daniel did. Daniel gave him the business one day. He's like, you know, you treat her like a princess and all this stuff, and if I hear different, I'm gonna bring the wrath of God down on you. You think that would have changed his tune, but it didn't. He's still a real big fat jerk.
Yeah.
But me, I'm still like kicking major butt, kicking butt and taking names. Oh, we go. So now tell me. They sent pictures of Daniel running a red light or something. It was, you know how they give you tickets in the mail?
Yeah.
Yeah, they sent one of those to my house a while ago. It's been quite some time. But evidently he's been doing this to a lot of other people too.
Yeah, that's right. Basically he just runs from one person to the next. That's what I witnessed. Now, basically, last time we talked, I was in Washington, D.C. with him. And that's when he faked his own death and started texting me as if he had cancer. And then then he started texting me as if he was his nurse, saying that he died on an operating table. And it was all of a sudden really rapid, like over 2 weeks of time, he's suddenly dead all of a sudden. But then a month later, he pops up, he comes emailing me and tries to claim that he's alive and that actually somebody stole his phone and texted me. But guess what? When he finally showed back up in Washington, D.C., it took him, he stayed out of Washington, D.C. for like 4 months. I guess he got a place down in Virginia, and but when he was there, he must have scammed some people there too, because the only time he ever leaves a town is when he has somebody who wants him, like, put in jail or something. So,
I see.
yeah, and then, but I heard some story about whoever he was staying with. When he tells me a story about how he's having a problem with somebody, that to me means he caused something to go on, maybe stole from him or something, and now they're fighting and he's in danger. But at first I didn't know about that. But anyway, he shows up in D.C. He's got his own place there. He found a person on the street willing to take him into his house, just like you, but he's paying rent like $400 a month. But he ends up like having his Social Security check. He always comes up with something weird about a Social Security check, and then he can't pay rent. So he managed to like dupe the guy out of a month of rent, and then he got the police involved, and then got all his property out of the house. So he scored a free month of rent, got his property back, and then he moves into another house where he basically does the same thing. And I was just this guy. I live at my own place. I just heard the stories of what he was doing, and he would always come and talk to me about it. And I'd just be like, "Damn, man, that guy is messed up. Everybody, stay away from him. Be careful, because he's after your money."
I would like to prevent it from happening to someone else. That's what my goal started being after I had been getting things in the mail where he was driving a vehicle that wasn't his.
Yeah.
So I went to and they were asking me, if you find any more information out about him, let us know right away, because he's took a old lady's vehicle. That's whose vehicle that is in the picture.
Holy shit, man! This is gonna be good. Do you still have any of those files? Because I could come.
I turned him over to the police, is what I did. I said, well, I certainly, if he calls or anything like that, I'll let you guys know. But here's the pictures that were sent to me, and they said, yep, that's him. You could see the picture that was taken by the street light camera.
Yeah.
And it clearly can see him driving the vehicle and the license number and all that stuff. So, yeah, they took that paperwork into evidence so that helped get that lady's car back. I never did hear what came of it. But,
oh, wow. That's like,
there and on.
That's so much more serious than I could have ever imagined. That's huge evidence. If I would have known that he was off in Newport, ending up stealing some woman's car and driving
it wasn't in Newport. That's the funny thing, is that picture was taken in, oh crap, I can't remember. It wasn't taken here.
Was it in Oregon?
It was in Oregon, yes.
Okay. Yeah, it might have been like, I heard that after Newport, he ended up between Newport and Lincoln City.
Okay, yep, that sounds like, yeah. I thought it was Portland for some reason, but that's just because I've been going there a lot lately. Hey, pretty girl.
Well, he was in Portland too. So he claimed the last thing, he had a job at a hotel. It was in a city, I can't remember the name, but it's like right below Lincoln City. And he said that some gangster Mexicans strapped him to a bed and injected his arm with some drugs. And then all of a sudden he shows up in Salem early in the morning one day and calls me and says, "Oh my God, I got injected with drugs and stuff, and a pastor just drove me into town." And he showed me he had like a hole in his arm and shit. And then I got him up to Portland and put him in a homeless shelter. I said, the only thing I could do is give you $2 or $4 to get on the bus, and you go to this homeless shelter in Portland. That they said they'd take you in. And he goes up there, and he was there for 5 days before all of a sudden he's all kicked out of every homeless shelter he was in, and nobody else will take him in. So then he stays at my friend's house for a couple of days, and that's when we make our trip to California because I had no idea what he'd been up to, and he hid all of it for me. And then we end up in Washington D.C. for protests and stuff. Because I'm just doing my work, and he's tagging along because he says he wants to go. Anyway, what you could do about this, the only thing I know is there's a Portland, Multnomah Circuit Court judge who is trying to get him to, it's him and his wife. Now he's got a wife, and he actually had two wives. So now he's got this new wife, and the two of them, what they did was, I still had no idea how bad this was, man. If I would have known he was like stealing cars and stuff, I probably would have dumped him a lot sooner. But he always acted like what he had as a problem.
He was a victim.
Yeah, like he was a victim. He would tell me that some of the stuff was he was getting beat up and harassed, and like some of the people in the house he was at were like drug users using serious drugs and stuff. So I was like, okay, man, whatever. I can help you get somewhere safer. I'll help you with that, or
I fell for the same thing. It's really crazy. He's very convincing.
Yeah. Do you have email to send email to people?
I do have an email, yeah.
Okay, well, all you could do here is I've got, luckily you're not the only one writing a statement. It's me, it's you, and then I have a copy of, do you remember Daniela? Have you ever heard of her?
Yeah, I do.
Is she still around?
I never met her, but I do remember that I was very suspicious. That's when I started becoming aware of I might be getting duped here, is when he wouldn't let me see Daniela, and I overheard him telling her that I was crazy, and if I find out about her, that she would be in danger. And I was like, are you telling somebody that about me? And he hung up the phone really quick.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right, man, because so whenever he has more than one person in his life, he tries to keep them all separated from each other, or he says bad things about each person to the other. Yeah.
Yeah, that's his tactic, is to keep them separated by stories of this person will hurt you if they find out about you.
Yeah, it probably was because he's concerned that you guys will join up and find out about the real story on each side, and then combine the story, and then you'll become aware of it. Yep.
Where is he now?
All right. So last time I saw him, he has a warrant for his arrest in Polk County, related to something over something. Could be related to that car. Could be related to Daniela. But anyway, it says that he filed a false police report, and he came into Salem with his wife from Washington D.C. And I was actually in Portland back in December 2017 on a train, and he set up shop there in a hotel. And he was there. He stayed there till April, and I tried to get to notify like the police and stuff and the judge. But when I went to file my complaint, they just wouldn't do anything or rejected my complaint. But then eventually I got it filed, but it was like July when I finally got it filed. No, the end of June, June 28th. But then by then he actually, I got his email address. So luckily what I did was I emailed him trying to pretend, because back in December he called me up and said, can you get me and my wife a cell phone? See, my wife, she works at Walmart, got a good job. She promises to pay you. And by then he'd only done like stuff like minor, I mean, it was theft for me.
Yeah, just con artist stuff.
Yeah. So, but he sometimes would give me some of the money back because he had a wife. I said, well, I don't know, man, but because you got a wife who says she'll pay me and she works at Walmart, I guess maybe I will buy you some phones. She said, I'll pay you 200 a month. Well, anyway, the $200 a month was supposed to pay for the phone costs and the service, and she never paid a dime. And then the phones disappeared, and she probably stole them or sold them. And then they went on the run, stopped communicating to me after they got those phones, and ended up in Las Vegas, which I was able to find out because I emailed them pretending, hey, buddy, I'm not so upset about what you did. And I said, you remember that trip to the Bahamas that I had? Because I want a trip to Bahamas. I said, you know what? You can have it. You want it? I got to transfer the name to you and your wife, though, for you guys to go. And he got all excited. Just he wouldn't reply to any emails or phone calls or nothing for months until I said that. But you know how they're greedy, so they jumped on it. And so I was getting that trip, and now I got his address. He's in Las Vegas, staying at a hotel there. And so what I did is I went up to Multnomah County Court, where I was living at the time when he stole those phones and stuff and made deals with me, and filed a small claim. And my hope was that the judge would find out he had a warrant and issue, or the police to go and arrest him or something. But so far they haven't done it, and they've allowed him to continue to live down in Las Vegas. And but he is on trial here, where the judge is looking for more information, and they could do other, order an arrest or something. Because what he did to me under the law was criminal. His wife, after I asked for my money back in those phones, she
admitted guilt.
Well, no, she threatened to kill me. She threatened to send her son after me to take care of me. And then they did it again after I filed this lawsuit. And so that's actually considered menacing. It's when you put someone in fear of their life. So I'm a disabled person. I have a head injury from some bad accidents. So what I did was I filed this lawsuit claiming that I was a vulnerable person who was abused. And technically, the government's supposed to do more for me. Like, they're supposed to investigate the criminal nature and stuff. But it turns out the only thing I might get is a judgment against him and his wife. Now, he cannot be collected against. That's the problem, because he's on Social Security. But his wife can, because she threatened to kill me. But I'm trying to get him arrested and brought to justice too. So I'm just getting these statements together, and I got to do it. Like, if you could type an email about everything you know, then I'll print that off and give it to the judge.
Okay. What I know that courts don't like is any he said, she said, or hearsay evidence. So I can only write an affidavit of what happened directly to me.
Yeah, that's all I want.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be what we have to do now is discredit him in terms of just like putting forth how many victims there are, and because he wrote to the judge and is now pretending to be the victim as if he never did anything wrong. And I don't know if the judge knows what the truth is now.
Well, if there's any validity to this man's claims of being a victim over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That's his MO, is I'm the victim, not the person who's claiming to have been victimized by me. But yes, it's like the police, they wouldn't even let me in my own house after he was trying to snatch his card out of my hand that he'd given me to hold on to until he could pay for the rent.
Oh, that's true. I remember that.
And I ran out the door, and I seen a police officer, and I flagged him down. I told him what happened, and he goes, "Is that the man's card?" And I said, "Yes, it is." And he goes, I'm going to have to take that because that's his property, not yours. And I said, but he's there at my house right now. And he goes, well, then you can't even go there. And then when he allowed him to take his property out of my house without me even witnessing what's going out the door, you know, he could just take whatever he wanted and say, oh, that belongs to me and that belongs to me.
Yeah. Well, I think that, from my knowledge, he only took what was his at first, but then as soon as the cops left and your house was all locked up, I had to find a way back to my place because I came. He said, "Come out here and help me find an apartment," and I was like, "Sure, I'll come out. I want to visit the coast anyway." And plus, he promised to pay my any costs I had to come out to help him. He's like, "Just please come help me."
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he never paid me. But anyway, so.
You don't remember me bringing the cane out to you guys?
Oh, you probably did all that, but anyway, you left and all the cops left. What he actually did, I was actually getting ready to leave, and he walked up to your house and said, "Oh, I forgot a guitar," and he actually found a window, opened it up, crawled into it somehow, and then came out with a guitar.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what actually happened.
That was my Ibanez, dude. That was $1,000 guitar. And he sold it to the restaurant owner at it's called the Crab Newport Steak and Seafood.
Yeah, it was it called Newport Cafe or something?
Yeah, Newport Cafe. Yep, you're right. And he had a job there for a little while, washing dishes.
Yeah.
And so I confronted the owner about buying it, and he wouldn't cop to it because he's a criminal too.
Yeah.
So I never did ever get it back. I even offered to pay him, you know, whatever he wanted to get it back, and the owner wouldn't sell it to me, but it's over. I just would hate to see anybody else go through it. Is it a true story about what happened to his wife and his son?
Well,
Killed him?
Well, the part that's not true is his wife was killed. Now, most of the story I think is fabricated because the only part that's true is his wife was killed, and then his son. I don't know if his son committed suicide, but that part could be true too. But he adds on extra bits to it where he says that some state hospital employees did it or something. But I don't know. That could be true too. But it sounds like that part you never know.
Yeah. Wow. I can't believe how I fell. So I believed everything he said. That's what scares me. You know, I call myself being really street smart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that about myself now because it actually happened.
If you type in Daniel Burdick into Google, you will find newspaper articles about when he was arrested and put into the state hospital. But then you'll also find the newspaper articles about his wife dying, and he is at the murder trial. Like the guy who did it confesses up front and says, "Yeah, I did it. I was out at her house doing some handyman work, and I just went in and killed her. Got rid of her."
Yeah, because when I met him, he had that article in his hands.
Yeah.
But I know all that happened because some of the girls from my Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses were on his jury duty, and they were like, "Gosh, Deborah, thank goodness you were there to help him out because he was threatening to jump off the bridge in Newport."
Yeah.
And he said that I saved his life and stuff, and he went to the Kingdom Hall with me a couple times. I don't know. It's just really, really, really there's a red flag going off at the same time. I think that I'm the crazy one. You know, oh, you're just crazy, Deborah. He's fine. He's harmless. But then you see that other side of him that's like, oh my gosh, it's true. He's a dirty crook.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, this is one of the worst characters ever. I've never come across a guy who could do it quite like this.
Right. I agree. I absolutely agree with you. So I sure would like to submit an affidavit to the effect that, yes, this individual is not a victim. He has perpetrated those same traits to me, that he was a victim, and come to find out that he had every intention of getting what he could out of a single mom that opened her home up to him. And the only time I had balls enough to stand up to him was when I was half cropped. Oh, shoot. That's when I came home that night with Corky. I was like, you have to leave.
All right. Do you got pen and paper?
Just 1 second. I was cleaning out the vacuum. Let me just get off of this job. Oh, boy. Yep, I just bought myself my own car. It's all paid off and everything. I saved up for a long time to get it without any payments. And I finally just got it this summer. I'm so proud of myself.
Is it your own car?
Uh-huh. It's a Kia Rio.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, and it's only got 68,000 miles, not even 100,000 miles yet, and it's only 10 years old. Okay, I'm ready.
All right, this is the email address you can send it to. CASE. That's
wait. Okay.
That's like the word. Yeah, that's like the word case.
Okay.
And then
I think I wrote this down. CASE at OregonStateHospital.net.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna go to that website after I couldn't get a hold of you, because I thought that was a way to communicate with you. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Oh.
We have a lot of cool videos on it, because actually many people don't know that the Oregon State Hospital and all these different hospitals around the country, they're kind of bad places. Daniel Burdick.
They are bad. Yeah, my mom used to be in one.
Yeah, they do torture with drugs and electroshock, but they also do human experiments, and they do a lot of law enforcement work. So their job is, when you're there, they're not really nice people. They're not your friend. They like to interrogate you and testify against you in court. And if there's a lot of sexual abuse that goes on in these places, and if you report it, there's been patients who ended up killed by staff over it, and they always get away with it. And there's been patients and their families sue over it. So yeah, it's kind of a bad place. That's what the website's all about. And there's stories about staff members who would do drug smuggling there. You know, bring drugs in, make the patients sell them to other patients. Different security guards who were involved, and even staff members marrying patients. It's really a messed up place.
Jeez, that is some scary stuff.
And it goes on too. Yeah, it goes on, like the history. Even back in the 1940s, there would be concerned people, like, because what they'll do is they'll go out on the streets and look for people who are vulnerable to arrest or pick on to put in there. And it used to be that you could get put in there just by you getting taken there by anybody, whether it was your family or the police, even if you didn't get in trouble criminally. And you could actually take your family member, just drop them off there and abandon them there, and then they're stuck in there. So yeah, there's a lot of cool, like, people would complain, like, yeah, there's so much abuse going on there, but nobody on the outside is allowed in to look and see what's going on. There's they used
Is there anything being done now?
Not too much, no. It's still kind of the same. But they've changed a lot over the years. They built a new hospital. Um, a long time ago, they used to chain people up down where they had these underground tunnels, and they just be chained up to a wall all the time.
My gosh.
And then there's that movie, One Flew in the Cuckoo's Nest. That's what it shows, what happens where you be prescribed drugs, and then if anything goes on, you're shipped to a room where they give you electroshock. And then there's that one scene where the staff puts on brass knuckles, and he's really ready to go and just beat all the patients up. And that's really how it works. They'll always be getting caught, like, every day, doing a fist fight with the patient and they're beating them up pretty good. And I've seen the reports and the pictures, where they'll have like a video of a really just a nice average person who's been stuck in there, and then all of a sudden, like, 20 staff come and surround him for no reason, and then start beating him up and they break his ribs, they break his wrist.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really nasty.
And this is being videotaped by who?
Oh, they have security cameras. But you never see this on TV, of course. The news never talks about it. But yeah, the way I saw it was, I actually worked with somebody who had a lawyer who got the video and stuff, and it was all investigated a couple of times. But usually they don't do a good investigation, but every once in a while the truth comes out.
And the truth only is exposed through the website?
Well, no, not in the website, because basically I run the website myself, but you will never, as a regular person, get to see this unless, like, you have to go through a lot of trouble. You have to go talk to the patient, talk to their lawyer, file like a lawsuit to get that video and stuff like that. So I have some newspaper articles about it. Every once in a while it shows up in the news.
And that's when there's a death?
Usually a death. For example, Chris Crawford was a patient there for 20 years, and I knew him. He was actually a good guy. He was much better than, like, Daniel Burdick. He was a regular dude who you wouldn't think would need to be there. And there was a staff member, I guess, who was having sex with a patient in a room with no camera. And everybody knew it. All the staff knew it for like 2 years. And the police knew it, and they all covered it up. And then the patients who knew about it, though, they're like, what the hell is this, you know? This is just messed up. We're living in very bad conditions. So they went to the newspapers, and the newspapers usually don't care. But this time, they ran an article about it, and also the police got involved. So what they did was they wanted to keep it, like, on the down low, because the patients were told, yeah, we know about this. We're not going to do anything about it. And
so the people that were committing the acts were told to keep it on the down low?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the patients were told to just don't tell anybody about it. And so Chris Crawford was one of these patients. He ends up getting sent back to maximum security, and they drug him really good, take away all his privileges. And one of the last things he ever said, like, I talked to him on the phone, some other people did, they knew him in person. He was so sick, like, he couldn't even talk anymore from these medications. And he just said, look, I can't talk. I'm very sick. and he sounded like he was slurring his speech and stuff, and he said, I really gotta go. I can't even sit here on the phone. I'm all messed up. And he couldn't even hardly finish his sentence. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess before he died,
Last thing he said,
if I die, the pill lady did it.
The pill?
The pill lady. The doctors.
Oh, the pill lady.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, they're prescribing these drugs.
Bye.
Well, he only lasted another month from that date, and he was dead. And his sister did a lawsuit in 2015 over the death, and they sued for whistleblower retaliation because they used medications on him just because he reported the staff having sex with the patient. And everybody was covering it up. Of course,
they called him the whistleblower?
Yeah. Well, under law, you can sue for whistleblower retaliation. So yeah, he was the whistleblower, and they killed him over it. That's how nasty they get. They don't. You would think they'd be concerned, Let's protect the patients from this. Let's investigate the staff and stuff. But that's not what they did. And the doctor who did this, and all the people, they're still working there.
Oh no. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I do get calls from family members all the time. They're going through the same thing. Most of them are mothers with children who their children were put in there.
And there's nothing you can do except for check on the status. Like, okay, yes, your child is in this facility.
You're allowed to visit them, but I mean, they make it very hard because you got to be rich to like go hire a lawyer or something. The lawyers tend to only help sue if the patient actually ends up dead. That's what I found out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is the saddest thing I ever heard. They have this really expensive VA rehabilitation center here in Newport. And my Corky, the guy who helped me through the situation with Daniel, he had a mild stroke, and he was in there, and you could hear the patients screaming for help, and all night long they were screaming.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, our country, it really goes back, like, I've studied this. The American government is worse because the Republicans are the ones who mostly set it up. The conservatives, going back to, like, the 70s and the 80s, when Ronald Reagan cut welfare in 1981, immediately something like 20% of the children and the women became homeless. And, of course, over time, they got more and more homeless because their money was cut off, their Medicaid benefits were cut off, and but everywhere you look, the Republicans gave themselves tax breaks, and they're even fighting to lower the wages of workers and take away health care and benefits, and they've been doing this for so many decades. And so they've been presidents, they've been, in control of Congress, and when they were in control of these things, they were able to craft really bad systems of like for-profit healthcare. Like these healthcare facilities.
Yeah.
They apparently
They're building a brand new one here.
they scout people to put in there who don't even need to be there, just to take, like, bill their insurance or send the family a bill and take everything the person has. And while they're there, they get treatments they don't need, like medications they don't need or electroshock they don't need. And the focus really isn't on helping them, because the studies on
That's
these...
not the end game, right? The whole goal to begin with was to attach a government name to any funds that this person might have.
Yeah, and there's contractors too, a lot of businessmen involved, because the staff members who run these places, they do enjoy decent pay and stuff, so that's their incentive to actually do this.
And to
But
keep their mouth shut.
yeah, yep. Um, I guess you know how businessmen are. If you own like a
Yeah.
big mall and there's like a bunch of people, you cut off all the welfare, right? So now there's tons of homeless people around. You want to be able to have the police or the medics come by and pick these people up and get them off your property. And where do they end up? Down there at that hospital where they're putting these drugs in everybody. And it's a security platform too. But the outcomes of this, they've studied these drugs, and people who get these drugs die 25 years sooner on average. So these psychiatric drugs are totally deadly. So there's also this plot that these rich people have decided that they can just go around and give these drugs out and kill anybody who gets them. Many people die within 17 years of a drug being started. And there's a lot of information out there about it. There's a lot of videos, not a lot of action to change the system though. Like, people, there's people who say this should be changed, but then Congress doesn't do anything to change it.
And there's nobody that's in Congress that runs it through the House of Representatives for it to even become something voted on.
That's right. It seems like they're all just buddies up there, they're all getting paid to do evil
To
doings.
have lunch together and make an agreement that if you pass this bill for me, I'll do something for you. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, kind of thing going on.
Yep.
Because that's what I think our president's doing with that Russian Putin person who was killed over of his own countrymen. He's killed them in a fire range, where they put you in front of a gun line.
Mhm.
He's taken his countrymen and put them in front of firing squads and executed them on a daily basis for a long time, for years. This has been happening, and none of the presidents in the history of America have ever tried to negotiate with Russian ambassadors for, they don't even call them presidents for that reason, because they have the attitude that if you're in my country and you don't make the rules we do, and if you buck us, we're going to shoot you, kind of civil, you can't call that a civil right, but the right that you have is to breathe the air as long as you follow the Russian embassy.
It's terrible. In my opinion, what I know some secrets about the military, and every military in the world, they're keeping these secrets from their own populations. And so my belief is actually Russia and the United States and even China and European Union, they're all allies and they're buddies.
Yep.
And they're running the world the same in every country. And the idea behind this is the leaders of the country are secure. They get a lot of money. They get fed well. They got a lot of houses and cars. But the rest of the people, they get what they get. Like for example, if you go against them, you're less likely of like prospering. You might end up in prison or a mental hospital or homeless or something. That's their system for the rest of us.
Well,
But
like
it
you
is
know how.
weird. The way they do it in the public, they're always like, "Oh, Russia is doing something
The
to
enemy.
America. Yeah, they're the enemy." Well, they could be in a way. They might like to mess with America a little bit, but at the same time, all the governments are corrupt. Even the United States is corrupt.
Well, it says in the Bible about the the harlot, the whore, which is the one who rides the horns, rides the beast with the seven horns, which is like the seven. The United Nations. There's seven of them,
Mhm.
or 12 horns. 12 horns, 12 heads. Gosh, I'd have to actually open the Bible, but it totally fits into the new world order that's being implemented through like how they're turning Walmarts into FEMA camps,
Yes.
and that's to implement uh, to implement the chip that's going to be inserted into everyone. For you can't buy, sell, or trade anything without this chip in that you have the government gives you, because they're going to do away with money.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot of weird plots. They control everything, and every time they control something, they basically either want to cut your money or somehow want to reduce what you get out of it, so they get more and you get less. Um,
Well, they want to stop any kind of what do they call black market, or uh, any kind of fraud where you are able to keep the government out of your pocket. That's considered fraud. Anything that doesn't let the government know what you're doing, you're committing an act of fraud.
mhm.
Yeah, so they just want to put the squeeze even tighter.
Have you heard of psychotronic weapons? Or
Yeah, I had seen them here in Newport. It's a sonic boom that goes through your body and it paralyzes. You can't move.
that's true. I actually have all the documents on that from the CIA, NSA, DIA, and stuff, and all the locals there in Newport and every town use it. It's like the backbone of how they can spy on everybody. They
Yep,
can monitor people in their homes with it,
yep,
give people brain scans. With the brain scan, they decode that, decrypt it with computers into the person's thoughts. So they got all the information, their passwords, all their secrets. And then it even says that actually it lets agents communicate. So you have two police officers, they can even use this to, it basically aims lasers into each police officer's brain and he can receive intelligence in his mind. It's called biocommunications. By psychotronics, that means electronic devices that amplify the psychic energies of the brain. And they can even like use it on people to set them up to look psychotic and crazy because then, you know, they're putting a voice in your head and you can't get it turned off, and then you look crazy. You run around trying to get help. And this is what they actually use to take over the world. This is what I was talking about, how every country in the world has this, Russia, the United States, and they use it to spy on their populations, and then they run things from the Congress level, passing bills related to how they're going to run things. They call it population control. And they've taken they use these weapons actually to find all the oil and gold underground, so they know where all the resources are, and they're giving all these resources to their own people, like they're billionaires and stuff. So people like me and you, we're not living equally. We're way behind. We could not possibly become a millionaire or billionaire usually like they are, and we're forced to do labor for them just to have food and housing and stuff. So basically these weapons are so powerful they can spy on their competitors and eliminate them and sabotage them, and then put their partners and themselves on top.
Well, or they create an environment where chaos and mayhem is going to be.
That's the other thing. There's no equal protection. There's not real enforcement of laws, and they mess with everybody so well. When people grow up, they're creating the chaos because, first of all, the education system's bad, the healthcare system's bad. I mean, imagine growing up and you never got to see a doctor. You never got to focus on you. And your education was so bad, there were so many things denied to you that by the time you're an adult, oh yeah, they made it so hard you were also homeless a lot or something. Or just living hungry and poor and everything. And you never got to do good stuff. You never got to learn like multiple languages. You never got to travel the world and do stuff like, to enrich your brain.
Only the knowledge of struggle.
Yeah. And then what they do is they pit all the people who basically they're so poor. Then what do to try to get money for themselves? There's studies on this. American poor people, usually teenagers, they start turning to sex work, drugs, uh, gang formation, and theft and stuff like that. So millions of kids start doing crimes just to survive because they're so like food insecure and everything. They're super hungry and everything. I mean, there's teenagers where they.
Well, there's just a lot of lucrative benefits to being a drug dealer.
Yeah, that too. But apparently, there's so many hungry American children that they have no food at home, that they'll take home food from school home with them, or they have to start going on dates with men to get money or food, and or steal or do gang or drug dealing,
Right. They just resort to these.
And then, of course, yeah. And then, anyway, it's really bad. Down here in like Portland, you can go out in the Pioneer Square or any town, and you find hundreds or even thousands of homeless people all over the streets, passed out sleeping. And
well, they just made it illegal to be homeless in the state of something. I forgot what state it was. And there were people that used to go down there and every morning and feed them and make sure that they had blankets and things. And they went down there one day and nothing was there except for their shopping carts.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's anything if you've dealt with homeless people at all, their shopping carts are their life. They would never abandon the shopping cart and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it was.
I was just in Salem, and it was so sad. I saw a young 22-year-old woman, and there's lots of these young girls. Apparently, there's 4.6 million young adult homeless people in any 12-month period. So there she was, 22, and I was like, holy crap, she's pushing a cart in the frosty cold of the Salem winter, and she's at risk of dying. It was just really sad. All she had was that cart that she was pushing around, and it was like 11 o'clock at night on the streets, and it's all foggy out and super cold, like it's gonna snow. But she was completely homeless with her cart.
So I hate to say I don't like to talk about bad stuff, but what is a good thing that can come out of this is that like I teach my child survival skills, plants that you can eat, things, how to make a shelter for yourself, um, to not resort to anything if you find yourself without food or a shelter, that don't rely on government handouts or become what I call a cart dweller, someone who keeps all their belongings in a shopping cart, because making that decision is vital in survival. If you don't know how to do those things, then you do become reliant on people, places, and things instead of yourself.
Yeah, and that used to be a lot easier too, because when this country was first formed, the world actually there was less people, so you could literally just walk around out in the nature and pick land to live on and build your own house and do your own survival. But now it's getting harder and harder because it's all the land's been given like a title deed. It's owned by somebody, and these people they're having a harder time doing that. But my belief is these people who are homeless, they could do that if they were legally allowed to. But yeah, I agree. You know, you gotta try to find a way. There's a problem. It's very hard to pick yourself up by your own bootstraps and help yourself because
Well, if you don't have knowledge of how to do that, where to even start,
yeah,
you're immediately a victim because you're asking a question to others. How do I survive? And they pretty much don't have the answers either. So it's vital to have those answers before it becomes um, a question.
in the old day, I mean, you're against government stuff, but back in 1970s, at
I'm
least.
not against it. I'm aware of the
Oh, good, yeah.
um,
Well, at least everybody back then they had the Section 8 program, and everyone got Medicaid, food stamps, and money benefits, and there wasn't as many homeless. And then in 1981, Ronald Reagan he said, "Okay, we're going to shut all this down," and I guess they cut $160 billion in aid from people a year, and that's caused this huge explosion of homeless children and even elderly people and everything. So,
but see, that's the government's whole way is to let's get everybody dependent on us and then jerk it out from under them. So
well, it's a
what happened is they just did it a little bit too soon.
yeah, there was a thing. Well, this was part of the New Deal order or something. I think it's called the New Deal. That was Roosevelt's idea of how to help everybody. And so he said they should have these certain rights, you know, the right to a job, the right to a house, the right to
Oh,
food.
this
But
that's
then,
kind of the same thing that Trump is saying too. You
yeah,
know,
well,
like with,
yeah.
go ahead.
Well, the problem is if the powers controlling the government change, and they, you know, like the Republicans, they're usually pretty like they're devising plans and businesses and models to control people and take away money from them and take away their property and resources. So Nixon and Ronald Reagan and Bush, they all did this, and even Trump. So if one of these guys is in office, all of a sudden they can vote to change the laws and rip out all the security that people have, you know. And that's a problem in America mostly because if you go to like Europe, they can't do that there so easily because they have constitutions that guarantee you the right to these things. But here in the United States, you don't. So it's become basically like it's like what is it bipartisan or some. Well, anyway,
Oh, yep, yep.
whoever's in office you have to live by their rule under the laws of America, because the Constitution allows them to do it like that. So if the president wants to hurt you, he can do that. And we do got to do something about that. We should have more economic security so we don't go hungry or homeless or lose our health care for no reason. I mean, president or Congress shouldn't be allowed to make these choices if we're going to get those things. But the current...
Yeah, but if you believe in the Bible,
yeah.
it says that this would happen.
Yeah.
In the times of the end, you would see, and the reason that you can't really do anything about it is because it's not, you're not at battle with men. It's the principalities, which is Satan himself. He's running out of time, so you can see that his anger is flaring. So he is the one in control. Satan is in control of the world right now.
Yeah.
And the best thing to do is to, like, Canada, we were going to go to war with them because they're not willing to become part of the United Nations. Pakistan, I believe, that they have the same, we will not join your, we will not pledge allegiance to your...
Yeah. Well, they actually, I meant to use the term partisan earlier. That's where they have very strong viewpoints in their own particular interests, and they don't care what happens to other people. Hey, my phone's almost about to die. I guess I better get off here.
Okay. Well, I am so grateful for your time, and I will go to the website and write anything I can do to help, because I would really hate to see this happen to someone else. And if he's got himself a female accomplice, is what it sounded to me like you were saying, then this could go on. He could do a hell of a lot more damage.
Yep, it's going to keep going on for years. All right.
Well, it sounds like there's a judge that's, that's interested in putting a stop to it. So I sure would like to do whatever I can to help build a case against him where he can't convince anybody that he's the victim and that people are just out to get him for whatever reason.
All right, yeah, and put in there the details about any type of scam like that car being stolen and the picture showing up and the police getting them, and how there's like open police reports about it in Newport.
Okay, I will absolutely do that.
All right, thank you.
All right, Todd, thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Nasty dog.